Okay, students. Now, we're talking about perpendicular and parallel lines. Both of them have to do in point slope form. So, one thing is if they give you two lines, like 2x plus 3y equals 6 and 4x plus 6y equals 18. One thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to solve for y for each equation. Everything has to be in point slope form. It's not that big of a deal, really, because all I really have to do is I solve for y. So 4x plus 6y equals 18. So what happens if I solve for x? Well, if I subtracted 2x on both sides, and I get 3y equals 6 minus 2x, and then I just divide by 3. Then y is equal to 2 minus 2 thirds x. What about this equation? Well, subtract 4x on both sides. Cancel the 4x's. So I have 6y equals 18 minus 4x. Then divide by 6. So I can solve for y. So I have y equals 3 minus 4 over 6x. You know what? I can reduce that. Because I could divide 2 into both parts of the fraction. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. That kind of helps me because I want to look at both x's. And then see, the thing is, if the x's are the same, then I have parallel lines. Well, are the x's the same? Yeah, they are. They're both negative 2/3. So these lines would wind up being parallel. Now, so first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I solve for y. And the second thing I want to do is I want to look at the x's. See, if I have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 7, and I've got y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4, those are parallel. These wouldn't be. Why? Because they're not exactly the same. And they're not opposite. See, if they're going to be opposite in terms of graphing, the sign would have to be opposite. So instead of it being negative, it would be positive. And the fraction would also have to be opposite as well. Since this fraction with x is the slope, the directions have to be opposite. So instead of 2 spaces down, 3 spaces to the right, I go 3 spaces up and 2 spaces to the right. That's opposite of each other. See, this is perpendicular. This is not. So in parallel and perpendicular, all you have to do is you have to just make sure. So let's try this again. Y equals 3x plus 2. Y equals 3x minus 4. These are parallel because the x's are the same. If I put a negative here, these are not parallel. They're not perpendicular either. For them to be perpendicular, the fractions and the signs have to be opposite. See, that's perpendicular. Then this is neither parallel nor perpendicular because the signs aren't opposite. Now it's perpendicular again. Why? Because the signs are opposite and the fractions are opposite. Now, this is not perpendicular because the signs aren't opposite. They're not parallel either. Now this is parallel because the signs are the same and the numbers are the same. So that's parallel and perpendicular. So really what this whole lesson means is, 1, solve for y, and 2, look at x. If you have the exact same x, they're parallel, And if the signs and the fractions are opposite, then you have perpendicular. I hold